Imagine waking up in a near-future Australia where your ability to see a doctor, board a flight, or even land a job hinges not on your resume or your bank balance, but on your behavior. Not just your actions in public spaces, but your online posts, your spending habits, your social circles, even your political opinions. This isn't dystopian fiction borrowed from a streaming series. It's a plausible trajectory of Australia's digital ID system if it ever evolves beyond identity verification into behavior-based evaluation. Right now, Australia's digital ID framework is positioned as a secure, voluntary, and privacy-first solution for online authentication. Citizens use it to log into MyGov, access Medicare services, verify age for restricted purchases, or confirm identity for financial transactions. On the surface, it's a convenience tool, streamlining digital interactions while reducing fraud. But infrastructure built for efficiency can easily be repurposed for control. The real question isn't whether the system could expand, it's whether safeguards will hold when political, corporate, or security pressures mount. Consider this. What if your digital ID didn't just confirm who you are, but began to assess how you live? In such a model, every digital footprint becomes a data point in a behavioral ledger. Pay your taxes on time? Your trust score rises. Share a controversial opinion on social media? It dips. Attend a climate protest, miss a credit card payment, or even frequent certain websites. Each action could be logged, weighted, and scored. Over time, that score determines your access to services, opportunities, and rights. This isn't hypothetical. China's social credit system already operationalizes this logic. Citizens with high scores enjoy expedited government services, preferential loan rates, and travel privileges. Those with low scores face flight bans, restricted school admissions for their children, and public blacklisting. While Australia has no official plan to implement such a system, the foundational architecture is quietly taking shape. Biometric verification, centralized identity databases, real-time transaction monitoring, and AI-driven analytics all are being integrated into the national digital ecosystem under the banner of security and efficiency. The danger lies not in today's intent, but in tomorrow's temptation. Once a centralized identity system exists, the pressure to enhance it with behavioral metrics becomes almost inevitable, especially during crises. A pandemic, a cyber attack, or a wave of social unrest could be used to justify expanding surveillance in the name of public safety. And once behavioral scoring is normalized, reversing it becomes politically and technically difficult. The risks are profound and multidimensional. First, privacy collapses under constant monitoring. Every click, transaction, and interaction becomes a potential input for your digital reputation. Second, systemic discrimination intensifies. Marginalized communities, already over-policed and under-resourced, would bear the brunt of algorithmic bias. A missed bill due to financial hardship could trigger a downward spiral of restricted access to housing, employment, or healthcare. Third, freedom of expression erodes. If attending a rally or criticizing a policy lowers your score, self-censorship becomes rational self-preservation. Dissent fades not through overt bans, but through quiet economic and social exclusion. Then there's the ever-present threat of data breaches. Australia's recent history is littered with catastrophic leaks. Optus, Medibank, and Services Australia have all suffered massive cyber intrusions exposing millions of citizens' personal details. Now imagine a single breach exposing not just names and addresses, but comprehensive behavioral profiles, mental health records, political affiliations, financial stress indicators, even relationship histories. The potential for blackmail, identity theft, and social manipulation would be unprecedented. Privacy advocates and digital rights organizations have been sounding the alarm. They argue that any national identity system must remain strictly limited to verification, not evaluation. The principles are clear. Digital ID must be voluntary, user-controlled, decentralized where possible, and governed by transparent legislation. Crucially, it must never link identity to behavioral scoring or predictive analytics. Once that line is crossed, The system ceases to be a tool of empowerment and becomes an instrument of social engineering. Australia's current digital ID legislation includes assurances about consent and data minimization. But laws can change. Emergency powers can be invoked. Private sector partnerships can blur the lines between public service and commercial surveillance. Already, banks, telcos, and tech firms are integrating with government identity frameworks, raising concerns about data sharing beyond original purposes. Without ironclad legal prohibitions, the slide toward a de facto social credit system could happen incrementally, without public debate or democratic consent. This isn't about fear-mongering, it's about foresight. Democratic societies thrive on anonymity, second chances, and the right to be imperfect. A system that permanently records and judges every misstep undermines those values. It replaces human discretion with algorithmic determinism, turning citizenship into a performance scored in real time. The path forward demands vigilance. Citizens must scrutinize every legislative amendment, every new data sharing agreement, every expansion of the digital ID's scope. Public pressure has already shaped the system's design, keeping it voluntary and limiting mandatory use cases. That pressure must continue. Support for strong privacy laws, independent oversight bodies, and strict prohibitions on behavioral scoring isn't just technical. It's foundational to preserving a free society. Technology itself is neutral, but its implementation reflects power. Who controls the data? Who defines good behavior? Who audits the algorithms? These are not engineering questions, they are deeply political ones, and they determine whether Australia's digital ID becomes a shield for citizens or a leash for the state. The global trend is clear. Digital identity systems are expanding. From the EU's eIDAS framework to India's Aadhaar, nations are racing to digitize identity. But each model carries different implications for liberty. Australia stands at a crossroads. It can choose a path that prioritizes individual autonomy, data sovereignty, and democratic accountability, or one that trades freedom for frictionless convenience. The warning signs are already visible. Facial recognition trials in public spaces, real-time payment tracking, AI-driven risk assessments in welfare systems. Each innovation, sold as efficiency or security, adds another layer to a potential surveillance scaffold. Without explicit legal firewalls, these layers could one day fuse into a unified social scoring mechanism, quietly, incrementally, and with little public notice. This isn't speculation, it's pattern recognition. History shows that once surveillance infrastructure is built, it is rarely dismantled, it is repurposed. The question for Australians isn't whether such a system could emerge, but whether they will act decisively to prevent it before the architecture becomes too entrenched to challenge. The future of digital ID in Australia must be defined by transparency, not opacity, by consent, not coercion, by utility, not judgment. A national identity system should verify who you are, not dictate who you're allowed to become. If left unchecked, the road from digital ID to a social credit society is shorter than we think. It doesn't require a sudden authoritarian shift. It only requires complacency, convenience, and the slow normalization of surveillance. Stay engaged. Question every expansion of data collection. Demand legislative clarity. Because in the digital age, identity isn't just about proving you exist. It's about preserving the right to exist freely. Australia's choice today will shape its social fabric for generations. The time to draw the line is now, before convenience becomes control, and before a tool designed to serve citizens becomes the mechanism that sorts them.